And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Sports. My name is Musaab, and I'm feeling a little bit different than usual, but I'm feeling optimistic like always. It's our Buccaneers, and we still have many, many more games to go. But that being said, I'm excited to talk about some Tampa Bay football, and I'm also excited to be joined with Yurika and Carter. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Doing all right, Musaab, man. Always good to be on the pod. Hope you guys are having an all right holiday season so far. And if you're not, we're almost out of it, guys. I know some of us are in retail and some of us are working pretty hard this Christmas. So I'm ready for it to be over. But Carter, how are you doing, sir?
Oh yeah, I'm doing well. Another day in paradise. It's always nice to be talking about the Bucs. Sitting around talking about football. There's not really anything better. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, for sure.
Amen to that. And Carter, we're really glad you could join us. We got a little special guest, Carter, a little background. He's also another fellow USF Bull, and also he's a writer who covers the Bucs for Creative Loafing. And so that being said, now before we go into this, listeners, if you could do us a favor real quick, and however you're listening to this, there's probably a like button down there, a subscribe button, even follow button as well. And the big thing is also, don't forget that we are on social media at RBLR Sports. All right, so let's get into the fun, all right? But I also just want to get the overall thoughts like I always do. Let's start out with Carter. Listen, someone sees you down the street and they want to know, hey, Carter, what's your little 1 to 2 sentence kind of summary? What's the overall vibe after that game?
Oh man, defense played their butts off. Really, really phenomenal stuff there. But man, the offense really it looked like they had given up by the end of the game, and that's really discouraging to see from a Tom Brady-led offense.
What about you, Yurika? How are we feeling about it?
Yeah, the whole game never felt like it was out of reach. Being one score for most of it, it was just so. Maybe that was more frustrating. So that's my one. It's that we almost had it until we didn't.
I'm right there with you. I don't know. Every single time, gentlemen, every single time we play them, it's always an interesting ball game. And I really thought to myself, maybe this one will be a little different. We're looking good. Now, obviously, that wasn't how it turned out to be. But at least for me, I'm just thinking, I don't know what goes on every single time we play them. And especially with the issues that both sides are dealing with, I was still assuming that, this should be a dogfight as it was. But then again, we gave it up for some reason. There was some dinks and doinks here and there. We had a lot of slips, and then also injuries popped up, unfortunately. So there was just a lot going on. But for me, I just felt like we did not make the best out of it, unfortunately. But anyways, that being said, let's just dig a little more into the game now. Let's start out a little bit with the optimistic vibes. I do want to give a big shout out to the Bucs defense. They were all around. We contained them. We really did. All they turned out to get was just, a few field goals, but that's really about it. So, when I see the Bucs defense, gentlemen, just perform so well, it just makes me think, well then, what else did we do wrong? But Bucs defense was amazing. I'm really happy. And then again, the injuries popped up later on, but overall impressed. But I want to know what kind of grade would y'all give them, especially with a game like that, that was just so. This one was just really interesting. A 9-0 loss to the Saints after everything we've been through, after everything they've been through in our history and everything like that. The Bucs defense delivered, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. I would give them a solid A minus. They really couldn't have done a lot of things better. The 3 field goals. That's you limit an NFL team to single digits in any capacity, regardless of the situation. That's a pretty big win in my mind, because the NFL's so well balanced. There's talent everywhere, and the Saints have. They got Alvin Kamara is one bad man, and he had 18 yards rushing and 13 yards receiving. Like, that does not happen very often. You do not hold Alvin Kamara to less than 50 all-purpose yards very often, and that's what the Bucs defense did. So you let Marquez Callaway get a couple big catches, but with the Bucs secondary, the way they play, the way it is, that's you can excuse it. That's going to happen. But yeah, I was really excited about the Bucs defense. They played exceptionally well. They got after Taysom Hill. They forced him to stay in the pocket. They didn't let him do his usual thing, getting those quarterback powers and everything. They did a great job. They did their usual thing, defending the football, defending the run. And like I said, A-, really great job. Really not a lot of things they could have done much better.
Agree wholeheartedly. Other than shutting them out, I guess, which would have been the recipe for success. The run defense was awesome. We saw Alvin Kamara for the first time in a long time, and he went nowhere. I mean, if you just showed me the box score and just said, Kamara's going to have 11 carries, 18 yards on the ground, and he's only going to have 2 receptions for 13 yards in the air. I'm saying, wow, did we score 45 points on the other end? And Taysom Hill had to throw the ball 80 times just to keep up. There was no room for the running game at all. Kamara couldn't do anything. Ingram couldn't do anything. Even Taysom Hill, who the Bucs have a lot of problems with mobile quarterbacks, and he wasn't able to do much. Out of 33 yards, 7 of them were on that goal line. They were backed up to the goal line and had to just get out into space. So nowhere to go on the ground, but the pass rush was also just very, very, very good. Shaq Barrett, JPP, Ndamukong Suh, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, just creating havoc. I mean, they did a wonderful job up front, and really, you wanted to give Taysom Hill as much pressure and as much just havoc up front, because he is in there as a backup, and he's maybe 2 steps away from being a tight end in this league. But he came in and he got sacked a couple times. He threw no touchdowns, and he only had 154 yards. So again, looking at the box score, you're sitting here going like, wow, they did their job, and you couldn't really ask for much more, other than maybe they dropped a couple interceptions that would have been amazing tide turners. But I don't think anyone's blaming the defense for this loss.
Yep, I'm right there with you, gentlemen. At least the way I see it is, there's always, no one's ever going to play a perfect game. I think it was a phenomenal defensive performance by our Buccaneers, and there's always going to be things here and there, and obviously because of that, sometimes, the Saints or any other team can get down the field and rack up a field goal or a few. The fact that they weren't able to get a touchdown, the fact that you said it yourself, 11 carries for 18 yards. Yeah, if I told you this, before the game that this was going to happen, then I think we'd all be partying and we'd be raging our heads off thinking, OMG, this is a shoe in the bag kind of win for us. We got this. And you know what, gentlemen, I think for me, the way I see it on the defensive perspective, when I'm performing, well over and over again from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, but especially the first 3, you're on the sidelines thinking, we did our job. And then you're always thinking, hopefully, big bro Tom Brady and the rest of the offensive boys have our back, and, they can rack up a touchdown or 2. But obviously that wasn't the case. But in the end, bravo to the defense. It was out there. And, I'll say this, when I was saying this last week, was this game is, all eyes on the defense and the offense. But the defense showed up, and I'm real happy for that. Now, on the other hand, gentlemen, this was, we got a lot more to dig deep on the kind of bad side. So the first thing I just kind of want to dig deep on is that the O-line got dominated. What exactly happened with that? It just happens over and over again, here and there, but the impression I have was this is not something I really had in mind that was going to be an issue at all. Okay, sure, maybe sometimes there's some slips and errors, I guess, but I think we were just lacking. Honestly, I wasn't happy at all, and I just want to know if there are reasons, and I guess I'll start out with this, Carter. I'll go with you first. If there are reasons that the O-line got dominated, what were they?
That's an excellent question. I don't know that I have a great answer for you. Other than I will say that the Saints defensive line, when healthy, they have one of the best 1-2 punches of, pass rushers wise in the league. I mean, Marcus Davenport was a first round pick, and they gave up an additional first round pick just to draft him. And when he's healthy, he is really a game wrecker. He's really good. He's an excellent defensive end. And obviously Cam Jordan has that reputation. He's been in this league a long time. He's been very productive. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Bucs offensive line, like they were facing a bunch of losers and they got dominated. They were facing a really good defense. Like this Saints defense is, I feel like, miles ahead of what their offense is, just performance and talent wise. But 4 sacks when you're playing with Tom Brady is not a good look. Because Tom Brady gets the ball out quick. He likes to get the ball out quick. He has a very fast release. So if you're giving up 4 sacks, that's kind of a dark cloud. It's definitely weird because they didn't have any major injuries that, anybody out. They've had the same, for the most part, the same starting 5. I think they've had maybe a guy miss a game or 2 here and there, but for the most part, their offensive line has been relatively healthy, so you can't really blame it on that. Like for the Saints, for example, they were missing Armstead and Ramczyk. That's just, you're not going to win a lot of games with your 2 starting tackles out. So they had an excuse. But the Bucs, they don't really have an excuse here. So it was definitely really discouraging because, when the playmakers go down, obviously the offense is going to suffer, but you don't expect their offensive line to look the way that they did because they looked outmatched and they just got, bullied by the Saints. And it was really discouraging to see.
Yeah, I think Cam Jordan is public enemy number 1, I guess, because he murdered the offensive line. And a couple things that I see is like, one, it was an uncharacteristically bad game from Tristan Wirfs. And this whole defensive line, like, it didn't take crazy schemes or fancy blitz packages, just a 4-man rush, and they got after it. And it was Cam Jordan, 2 sacks just by himself, forced a fumble, but even on the rushes, if whatever you want to call the statistically, where he doesn't get a hit, but he pressures the quarterback. I guess that is a statistic. But like from the get-go, you saw Jordan just moving spin moves, swim moves, just blunt force, just rushing right to the quarterback, and being just there to hit TB12 or create a little bit of havoc, make him take a step up or step to the right or something like that. But Cam Jordan was the big problem that he just, mama, there goes that man again the entire game.
Yeah, I think this was a huge disruption to our O-line, and Brady included as well, because listen, they were dropping 4 to 5 guys back into coverage while sending in at least 2 rushers on every play. So, that kind of moving Brady from the pocket has always been, I guess, maybe a good way to disrupt his game. And I guess that's something that they took advantage of. And as you said yourself, Carter, the offense of theirs isn't too high. I think everyone knew that. So it just makes me wonder. Then I guess maybe the way I see it is maybe the Saints were aware of that, and they said, hey, listen, we got to try everything we can. We got to come into this game with a completely different approach. And I guess, you know what, let me tell you something. I think for me, this was something that they knew well aware about way before the game. So this wasn't something that said, oh, snap, we're going to have to change our whole game plan, and then it became a success. This was something that they had planned for a while. This was something that I think everyone was aware about, that if anyone was going to save them, it was going to be the Saints defense. So unfortunately, I guess, the offensive line got a little bullied, but along with the offensive line, our friend Tom Brady got a little bullied as well. I think he was. I don't know what exactly happened. I'll dig deep into it after y'all. But Carter, where do we start? What exactly happened with Brady? Because this is not the Brady we know. And then, especially a 9-0 loss. This isn't something that it was just like, oh, like their offense was hot as well, and they were kind of running away with it. We were having chances and chances, and we know Tom Brady knows how to, he's a comeback kid or a comeback guy or a comeback GOAT, whatever you want to call it. We know that he knows how to win and how to come back and how to succeed. But I guess he didn't have any tricks up his sleeve. What you think, Carter?
Yeah, it was tough to see. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, it was just kind of disappointing. At the end, it just looked like he looked defeated. I just remember one of the last drives where he threw the interception and Gardner Johnson caught it running into the sideline. I just remember thinking, wow, like even the plays before that, it was just like this offense just lacks life. It lacks energy. It just looked like everyone was just kind of going through the motions. I know that's a cliche that everyone says when people perform poorly, but it really did look like they were just kind of collecting their check for the second half, because the thing is, they ran for 118 yards, and you run for over 100 yards in this Bucs offense. I assume that Tom Brady is going to be able to throw the ball down the field, spread it out, get his receivers some action, and they're going to win the game. So it just was really disappointing to see. It seemed like he was forcing a lot of stuff. He had that weird fumble where he got a little greedy. He tried to get some extra yardage, and it just didn't work out. Because he had those plays against the Bills last weekend where he was getting all fired up. He picked up the first down and he snuck for a touchdown, and he was getting into it with the defensive lineman, and everyone was, "Oh yeah, Tom Brady." And now this week he runs into a brick wall, and he's like, "Oh, that's right, I'm 45. I can't be doing this." And it was definitely rough to see. You don't really see a guy like Tom Brady look like that very often, and it's just kind of a reminder, like, hey, he's human too. As much as we glorify him, we prop him up, we put him on this pedestal like he's the GOAT. Everyone has bad games, and I know in my articles I can be really harsh on Tom Brady. But that's because, if people are going to proclaim you as the GOAT, you have all those championships, you're held to a higher standard than the rest of the NFL. The plain and simple, point blank, you are going to be held to a much, much higher standard than the rest of the players on your team. And he did not perform anywhere near to that standard. So yeah, it was just a really, really tough game for him.
Yeah, I think that was the big takeaway too, is that all of my friends and coworkers and all the stuff that are not Buccaneers fans, they were just waiting for this game to come. Oh man, everyone was like, "Hey, how about Tom Brady? How about them Buccaneers?" And it's like, okay, well, you haven't had a lot of opportunity to rag on the Bucs, and definitely haven't had the bragging rights as we're the champions, but from the get-go, this was not a good game from Tom Brady. His first pass was an interception, but that got overturned. But, I mean, just the entire game, overthrowing, underthrowing, losing his cool, yelling at referees. And while there were missed calls, I mean, in a close game, in a 6-0 game, which this was for the majority of it, the refs are going to swallow their whistle on ticky-tack stuff. They're not going to let it get out of hand. And, I mean, just when you look at, like Carter said, he's the GOAT, right? He's the one that everyone's looking to as the standard bearer in the history of the NFL. And rightfully so, there were missed routes and bad things. But some of these plays that early, Mike Evans made a great play on third down, having to stop, jump, get 10 feet in the air and make a fingertip catch just to haul in a 12-yard pass. There were some things that these guys really did have to make up for deficiencies that Tom Brady was the reason for. So it started bad, it got worse, and then coupled with the misplays of others, it just kind of compounded more and more and more as we ended up. But I hope it's a one-and-done thing for Tom. I hope he got it out of his system, and I hope he's a lot better. But Tom, as much as he's the number one culprit, and they had a great game plan to get to him with that rush with Cam Jordan, and they really, really did set the Saints up for success with an amazing pass rush to allow these defenders to not have a lot of time to have to be man-on-man with people. We thought that Brady would get the ball out quickly, and even as quick as he wanted to get it out, he didn't have a lot of time. He had a hand in his face. He was getting hit. He was getting pressured. He's feeling footsteps. But then when he had a little opportunity, either he or another player, it just wasn't anyone's night tonight. I'm sure there's way more things to get into, so I guess we'll move ahead here, Musaab.
I mean, I'm right there with y'all. I really am. I got a lot of love and respect for Brady. I mean, I think he's aged incredibly. You rarely see evidence of him actually being in his 40s on the field, but
Yeah.
it does pop up from time to time, and I guess this past weekend it was that time to time. I guess, especially against teams who can get pressure against him. We got aggressive secondaries who can effectively blanket the receivers. Now, obviously, his arm strength is still good, but it's not as quite as it used to be. And then, whatever the minimal quickness he's had over, his career, it was kind of diminished as well. So, for me, it just popped out that, I guess he was relying on a great offensive line protection, and then he was, because of that, at least more mastering the reading the defenses and trying to take advantage of that. But when defenses can break through his line and his receivers, he gets exposed really quickly. I really do think so. I think that's what it was. This day was bound to happen, but Carter, I'm right there with you. We have to put him on a kind of a higher tier when it comes to how much we count on him. This is the GOAT we're talking about, and especially Eureka, you said it yourself. It was only 6-0 in the first half, so during that little halftime show, a little break, there should have been a little change of pace, a change of dynamic. We should have tried to decide, all right, well, what do we need to do? But who knows? This reminded me a lot of the Rams game, just the way they were they kept on fighting with us. They were getting excited. Listen, 6-0 for us, after two quarters is a little scary for me. But the way I see it is the Saints defense was feeling hot, and they said, okay, whoop-de-doo, we're already ahead. Well, whatever our offense can do, so be it. But hey, listen, we're gonna stop them, and it was a pretty big accomplishment for them. I think they were able to succeed because of that. And now, obviously, not too much blame on Brady, but then again, there are some things that obviously I was a little frustrated about. But hey, listen, if not Brady, then some other people needed to step up to the plate. I was hoping my friend or his friend, his BFF, Rob Gronkowski, would step up, but a lot of just drop catches, dropping passes. I didn't know what was really going on because this is not the Gronk we know, gentlemen. I don't know, Carter. Let's start out with you. I mean, you see this. What's going on? Because if anything, I was expecting worst comes to worst. You hit that little emergency panic button, and you're thinking, all right, no matter what happens, at least we have that Tom Gronk connection. But it wasn't there. What you think?
Yeah, it was tough to watch because towards the end of Gronk's career with the Patriots, it seemed like he had lost a lot of lost a lot. So you hear people say, "Oh, he lost a step." It seemed like Gronk lost a lot of steps. Like I just think of that interception, not the interception, but the miracle touchdown against the Dolphins that one year, and they put Gronk on the field as a safety for some ungodly reason, and he was trying to chase the guy down, and he fell, and it was like, oh man. But yeah, last night kind of reminded me of those Patriots days near the end. It's like he had 11 targets, and he caught 2 passes. That's not good. That is really bad. Because he is their, like you say, he's their pull the emergency lever, just throw it his way, he'll bring it in. But man, it was not working at all. And it wasn't entirely his fault. It wasn't entirely Brady's fault either. It was kind of a mixed bag, as most things are. So it was really difficult to watch that. Yeah, I mean, the Saints came in. They just played really hot defensively. I mean, they were, the Bucs are the defending champs. They talk a lot of smack. I mean, both sides do. Yeah. And so both sides are coming in heated up, and the Saints just were like, "Yo, we're not going to let Gronk touch it today. We're gonna play him tough." They got that safety, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, one of the most annoying players in the league, but if he's on your team, you absolutely love him to death. And I think he played a big role in helping just absolutely make Rob Gronkowski just a non-factor. They turned him into a blocker, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. There's really not much more to add to that. He was covered all game, and even more so when the wide receivers started to get injured. And it just, that safety blanket wasn't so safe. It just, now, granted, I know Brady was getting frustrated because he thought there were way more penalty calls that should have been in there. And it's one of the things that Gronk does really well is he's able to kind of draw the attention of the defense and draw these fouls and move the chains in different ways, not just catching the ball. And it just didn't work tonight. The refs weren't calling anything that was really that wasn't super egregious. And I think him not being able to catch the ball when it's to him and not being able to pick up the penalties and not doing that just added to that frustration as it built more and more going into the end of the game there.
Yeah, this became a game that a mental game. A lot of errors here and there. It's getting to all of our heads. But for me, I'm just thinking though, and you said it, Carter, yourself, with the whole blocking role that Gronk had. When Gronk first joined our Buccaneers, that's the issue we were first looking at was OMG. Okay, I guess Gronk still coming back, but the way I see it, when he first started his career with the Bucs, it was like, OMG, okay, all right, we get it, you can block, but what else can you do? We were waiting for that. I was waiting for, all right, well, let's get some catches, let's get some touchdowns, right? So that's exactly how I felt this game. Now, unfortunately, he was contained by their defense. It was a successful performance by their defense. They're chippy, they get in our faces, we got in their faces, but yeah, they do have annoying players like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who gets in everyone's face. He wants to make sure he does whatever he can to make sure you don't catch the pass. You kind of lose concentration. But for me, the only thing I want to say though is I'm a little disappointed that we weren't able to take advantage of any kind of deep passes, trying to rack up some yards. We weren't able to grind it out. And this is not the Gronk that I know. The Gronk that I know is the one that helps us change. He has those momentum kind of changing catches or plays. He's a big guy. He's hard to take down. But if he's not given any opportunities, I guess there's only so much he can do. And that kind of leads me on to my next point, which is all the pieces for me. I guess maybe it was just the depth pieces. Rojo and Keyshawn Vaughn were kind of not looking good in the passing game as well. And then even the missed opportunities from Darden and Scooter, Tyler Johnson. This was more important than ever. And, before I ask you all, what are y'all's thoughts about the depth pieces? The only thing I really want to say is this not the time to really, make sure that these things are in the best shape they can? Now, obviously, not everyone's going to be playing a real good game. Some people are going to have some off games. But when it's, after two quarters, I feel like someone or a few people needed to really step up. There needed to be changes, and there weren't any changes made. And everyone is responsible for that, meaning, people like Scooter, Darden, Tyler Johnson, Rojo. So I want to know how often or, how concerning, I guess, is this for you, Carter?
Yeah, that's a really great point because in the NFL it's always like they always say the next man up. That's always been huge with Bruce Arians. Like even from his time back in Arizona with the Cardinals, like he would always just say, "Hey, injuries happen. This is the NFL. Everyone gets hurt. So whoever's next in line better be ready." And yeah, like you said, Scooter, Tyler Johnson, they did not look ready. I will say that Ronald Jones had a couple of those big runs in, I think it was the second half, and he had a couple of big runs where I was like, hey, this could galvanize the offense. This could get something started. Maybe they punch it into the end zone or at least get points on the board, just break through. And nope, it didn't happen. I think he even got them into Saints territory with those two. He had a couple of big runs, and that was really encouraging. But at the same time, it was incredibly discouraging because of the lack of success, despite Ronald Jones stepping up. Yeah, Scotty Miller was atrocious. He did not look great. Tyler Johnson, he looked rough. Jalen Darden, I mean, he had a couple of he's been okay in the return game, but man, he had 3 targets and he didn't get a catch. I mean, that's not good. Cameron Breit's another guy that's got to step up because as much as he's a backup tight end, him and OJ Howard are both definitely more on the receiving end of the tight end spectrum rather than a blocker. And neither of them really just it was really disappointing to see the guys that if injuries like these happen that you expect to step up just fall flat on their face and not really contribute at all. It was definitely really, really discouraging to see, especially for the future, with Godwin out for the season, with Evans out for, whoever knows how long. So yeah, it was rough to watch.
I agree with you. You did a really good job talking about tight ends and wide receivers, and I really did hope to see something better out of Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, guys that I know we've been here on the pod, but also just the fan base is like, we like these guys. We want these guys to do well. They're not the Evans and Godwins of the NFL. So it's like, hey, little underdog going on, man. With Jalen Darden, there was a really good opportunity early in the game to throw something really deep, and he's a speedster. He had the guy beat, and Brady overthrew him right along the sidelines. So, but you look, when you look at the box score, 3 targets, no catches. The another one you'll see right above him is Keyshawn Vaughn, and this is where I kind of wanted to pick up the ball here, is that Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn were just horrible in passing situations. We're already missing Bernard. The game plan was obviously, I mean, if you look at just the first quarter alone, how many times in a row we passed it to Leonard Fournette. So when you're having Ronald Jones come in here, Ronald Jones dropping key passes, Keyshawn Vaughn can't even stay upright even when he's wide open. He's fell, and then it disrupts the timing. And Brady's now throwing the ball at his face mask. It was not fun. And this is definitely something that I'm hoping that maybe there's clarity because of, in the moment, guy gets hurt, you got to step up. You either do or you don't. Now we have a week of practice. Hopefully, maybe we can get something good out of the passing game from these running backs. And not that Ronald Jones, I guess, I didn't expect much out of him. But, I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn, it's like if we hand him the ball, he can't keep it. If we try to throw it to him, he can't stand upright. And when you get it to him, he can't catch it. So at some point, there's got to be some tough decisions, and that's why maybe they went out and got a Le'Veon Bell. So we'll get to that a little bit later, but that's what I wanted to say is, like, just all the way around, it was just disappointing, and I wanted to see Rojo, I wanted to see Keyshawn Vaughn shut us up and do well and kick ass, man. Like, I want Scotty Miller, I want Tyler Johnson, I want all these guys to do well, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter who they threw to, other than Chris Godwin's 49 yards and he's 6 of 7 on targets. Other than that, it was pretty much a crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, Eureka, you said the whole, like, we were waiting for someone to shut us up, and
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone was just like you, Eureka. I mean, the players and the fans, everyone out there. The first 2 quarters, you're running your mouth. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? This and that, waiting for it. But for me, Carter, I'm right there with you. I was discouraged, and you know what? I think the players were discouraged as well. All right, because when I'm thinking, Evans ain't looking hot. Okay, well, at least we have God. Oh, we don't. Oh, Godwin's is not looking hot. Okay, at least we have Gronk. Gronk is not looking hot. At least we have this guy, that guy. This person's not okay. So when you keep on going, it's like a little domino effect. He's not hot. Okay, well, at least we have the. He's also not hot. Okay, well, let's count on. Okay, oh my gosh, now you telling me, like, nobody's hot. So when this happens over and over again, this is affecting me mentally. And honestly, the defensive performance by the Saints shut me up instead of our own players, because then I became discouraged. I said, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? I'm just praying, okay, listen, can we at least rack up a field goal? Maybe that'll change the game pace. That'll motivate us, because then from there, all we got to do is rack up a touchdown, and then we're taking the lead. So for me, I think this just came down to, it was becoming a mental game. It was becoming discouraging minute by minute. And I also think that the energy that the Saints brought, we weren't ready for it all. There's only a few things, there's only so many things you can really prepare for. And I just think that we were all completely thrown off. But for me, this is just concerning, because I want my Bucs. We all want the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl. Every football fan wants to see their team shine, especially when you know that your team is actually looking hot. They're real good, especially when you got a leader like Tom Brady leading your team. So this is concerning for me, because I'm just wondering, well, how much can we succeed? I understand that, yes, maybe, we don't have too many games like this, but we also haven't had too many games where we're playing some really fiery teams. Okay, I've only said a few times, gentlemen, this season so far, that all eyes are on this game, or this game. Grab all the popcorn, get fired up. This one was really, really important. This was a statement game after all the history we've had with the New Orleans Saints. This one was I cared about a little too much, maybe that's what it was. And because I had so much energy and excitement and optimism, it slowly died down quarter by quarter, and unfortunately, it appears that maybe our depth pieces were thinking the same, or maybe the whole team was just feeling the same. And then that kind of leads me on to my next point, because I want to know is, if we just see everyone kind of not really stepping up, everyone's kind of looking a little off here and there, then okay, well, maybe you got to change the play calling. So I want to know, Carter, was play calling an issue?
I mean, I'm sure you can nitpick like an offensive coordinator's play calling until the end of time. That no head coach, no coordinator, same with the players. No one's perfect. I really like Byron Leftwich, so I'm biased. I'm never going to put a lot of the blame on him because he seems like a really good guy. I think he's going to be a head coach next season. So, I just, it's tough when you're dealt a tough hand. When you're calling plays with Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson and Jalen Darden running routes, it's tough to look at your playbook and say, yeah, this one's going to work. This one's going to get us, this one's a winner. It's tough to look at a playbook and think that way when you have those types of guys running routes. You have all your backups. You don't game plan as if, you're gonna target Tyler Johnson 7 times. That's probably not, going into Sunday. All right, let's get Tyler Johnson involved this week. Like, no, that's probably, realistically speaking, that's probably not what went on in those meetings. So it's tough. Like I said, they could have maybe fed the ball to Ronald Jones a little bit more in the second half. He seemed to maybe get a little bit of a hot hand. He had that 30-yard gain, but again, that's a little nitpicking. It's tough as a play caller when you're dealt that kind of hand, especially in the middle of a game. You got to adjust, and it felt like there was a lack of adjustment there, which I guess you could put on the play calling, but I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I think the front four of the New Orleans Saints really kind of put a nice big kibosh on the first part of the game plan, because it was apparent they want the short dink and dunk plays to offset that pass rush. Maybe you get them overcommitting on with a blitz, and then you throw it to Leonard Fournette, because that's what they were really doing. I mean, the whole game, it was just crossing routes to the middle, which was just a log jam. They gummed up the middle of the field. You had these out routes, and then Tom Brady would underthrow them for interceptions or for incompletions, and just a ton of, it kind of looked like they were check downs. I know Stefan is a big, he hates all these check down routes all the time, but it looked like they were just even too quick to be check downs. It's almost like they were planned from the get-go. You have the ball, you're holding it 2 seconds, and then you're chucking it to number 7. So it just seemed like they were happy for the 6-yard dink and dunk plays, and then maybe we overthrow Jalen Darden on a 40-yard attempt, and then we punt. And that's really what the offense was. And that was before the injuries. This is before we have the third, fourth, fifth string wide receivers out there. It just was, to me, I'm going to be a little more harsh on the team than you're saying, Carter, because I'm just like, this was not what I expected them to come out with. And then when it didn't work, like you had brought up, when it didn't work, they didn't give it to Leonard to jam it up, or maybe get a Rojo, or you get Keshawn Vaughn on out to the outside somehow. I mean, it was really just, they were happy to throw the ball. They were happy for the incompletions. They were happy for the bad things that happened. And then at the end of the game, they're like, oh yeah, okay, we'll feed the rock to a couple of these guys. But even then, it wasn't like, it's a 1-score game, and we're still not controlling the possession, controlling the line of scrimmage, and trying to get that. So we couldn't exploit the holes of their zone, and the pass rush was just, like I said, was so dominant that it did allow them to go into a little bit more of man coverage. And then once some wide receivers starting to get hurt, it just kind of played right into what they were already doing really well and efficient on the defensive side. So, but to answer, Musaab, your question, just in a word, yeah, I thought play calling was definitely an issue from the beginning of the game. And then it just got exacerbated the longer and longer and deeper we got into the hole.
Yeah, honestly, I got mixed feelings. I agree with both of y'all, but I'm going to lean a little bit more on the Yurika side with this because, listen, this is part of the game. I got a lot of respect for Leftwich, but I also want to say that, listen, there's a quote that I love, and I always say to other people, is he who sweats more in training bleeds less in battle. All right.
Ooh.
So this day, listen, this day was bound to happen. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, and a wake up call was coming someday. and this weekend was, I guess, maybe the wake up call. So for me, it's just sure, I guess maybe after the first quarter you're thrown off, second quarter, but then during the half, you have to plan out things, and this is the whole purpose of the backup. This is the whole purpose. This is why, you're the offensive coordinator. You're not the offensive coordinator because, you know how to, make, beautiful plays, because you also have a leader like Tom Brady. So I want to also put a little bit more. Well, actually, I don't put more. I want to put a little bit of blame on Tom Brady as well, because Tom Brady's like no other quarterback in the league. I really do think he's one of those people who probably had a huge voice in all this play calling. All right, so for me, it was just this is not the Super Bowl champions that I know or we all know. Okay, so yeah, if I was a Lions fan and this happened, I'd be like, whoop-de-doo, whatever. Am I surprised? No. Is it okay? No, not really. But oh well, it's not like we're actually gonna be, succeeding for the rest of the season. We're actually gonna have any chance of hitting the Super Bowl. We have a huge chance
Yeah.
to make it to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but maybe this was a little wake-up call. I guess maybe every season, gentlemen, we always have those maybe one or two to max wake-up call games. For the top of my head, I'm thinking last season for me, my wake-up call was the Bears loss we had last season.
Yeah.
That just absolutely aggravated me. And this past weekend, I was a little aggravated because I'm thinking quarter by quarter, what is going on? I'm praying for the best. We have to change things up. We are the champions, gentlemen, and we weren't acting like it. And this was more than just the offense or the defense or anyone. This was a whole team effort, and it just seemed to me that everyone was just kind of shocked or surprised, or no one was ready for this. I think that's what it was. So a lot to say, but I mean that's all I'm really gonna leave it as because overall it was just a disappointing kind of performance. But what's also a little disappointing, and I'm gonna do this for Stefan, a little stat of the night, which is this is the seventh straight regular season loss to the New Orleans Saints, and now a few of those being under Tom Brady. So. I just don't know. I mean, how do we feel about that? I mean, I know it's not a huge deal, but why do we have this team called the New Orleans Saints in our division that's always gives us a hard time? Why is it that every single time we play them, uh, I'll say this, yeah, I'll take that. Why is it that every single time they play, there's always this indication that, whatever player I have on my fantasy team, it don't matter if it's the Saints or if it's a Bucs player, that I'm thinking, you know what, I'm probably gonna put him on the bench. There's this feeling that no matter who you are, you're not gonna be hot. And that's kind of how it was to all my fantasy owners out there who have Bucks players. I'm really sorry. I apologize. Or I mean, I don't know how much I can really apologize. I'm not a Bucks representative, but I'm a Bucks fan. But that being said, though, on the real, this was just this one just really got in my head. For some reason now, the New Orleans Saints got a little real estate in my head because every time we're gonna be playing them for the rest of or for the rest of my life, I'm always going to be thinking about these things unless we just absolutely obliterate them the next time we play them, or then absolutely obliterate them the next time we play them a few times for the rest of my life and our lives and everyone's lives. So that being said, we are still on pace, maybe for the number one or the number two seed at least for now. But this was a weird loss, gentlemen. So I guess maybe something to consider is how does a loss like this kind of reflect our kind of overall vibe that we give to our opponents, to all the other playoff contenders? If I'm a playoff contender and I saw a game like this, I am laughing. I am giggling with all my boys, thinking, "Wow, this was a champs." You're telling me this was, this was the team who might be on pace to be the number one seed in the NFC? Seriously, that's what I'm thinking. So for me, it was just a little overwhelming. But gentlemen, I want to know your thoughts. Carter, first of all, what do you think? This is our seventh straight regular season loss, only a few of those being under Tom Brady. But then again, we're still on pace for the number two seed. But towards listen, Carter, I want to know, this is how concerning is this? Or I mean, for me, this is very concerning because this is not the first time we played them this season. All right, after that first time we played them, I said, "Whoop-de-doo, this was bound to happen." Am I that surprised? No, but now it's round two. we know how they played, and second of all, that disgusting loss that we had against them with their backup Simeon, who played us.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, are you seriously gonna even give the Saints a chance to really take advantage of us? And we really didn't. I think the defense was like, you know what, we're not letting them, play us again, and they did that. They did a great job, but our offense was on a different page. So I just want to know. I mean, Carter, overall thoughts. We're getting closer and closer now to the playoffs. For the rest of the season, Carter, we don't have any really threatening opponents. This was
Right.
kind of the final test, the final kind of little scrimmage before the actual, the real fun. So,
Right.
and it was an ugly scrimmage. It was extremely ugly scrimmage, and I'm thinking, oh my God, if we got to go to the playoffs tomorrow, we are in trouble. What you think?
I feel you. It's definitely discouraging to lose to a division rival. It's never a good feeling, especially in the manner that they did. But I got to confess something. My parents are both from the Louisiana area, so I grew up a Saints fan. But
Oh,
man,
where's the mute
look,
button? Hold on, I gotta find it real quick.
I feel you. I feel you. I am no longer. I do not no longer. I no
It's
longer
okay.
affiliate
It's
myself
okay.
with them. But it's tough, man. The Saints are just. They're a really good regular season team. They have been for a very long time, and they always absolutely crap the bed in the playoffs. So I take this game. It's definitely discouraging. I think the injuries are a much bigger deal than the actual results of the game itself. I think that's a much bigger issue than losing to the Saints in the regular season. Because let's face it, the Cardinals lost to the Lions this week. I mean, the Packers lost to the Saints at the beginning of the year, and they lost in embarrassing fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be totally wrong about the score, but it was something like 35-3. It was atrocious. It was bad. So every team has weird, crappy losses like this. Any given Sunday, that whole thing. Anything can happen. It's the NFL. So the result. I don't really take the result necessarily, other than just the fact that it's a loss in the loss. It's in the loss column, and that stinks for seeding. But as far as matchups, how does it change my perception of how the Bucs are going to do in the playoffs? It doesn't really that much, other than like I mentioned before, the injuries. The injuries are definitely much more of a concern in my mind for the Bucs right now than anything else. Just because. Last year they were so fortunate. I mean, they had no major injuries other than Vita Vea, which he even came back for the postseason. So it was just like, going into the playoffs, they had that run where they got to play. I hate to say it, but it's lining up similarly to this year. They got to play the Vikings and the Falcons, and they just went on that little run. Yep. And then they got hot, and they win the Super Bowl. And this year they kind of have, they get to play the Panthers, the Jets, and then the Panthers again. 3 matchups that they should probably win, but this year they have all the injuries, and that is the much bigger concern for me than the actual result of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we lost twice to New Orleans last year, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl. And I think that's. Oh, here's a stat for you, Musaab, that I believe that we did that in 2002 as well. So it's So that's the recipe for success, guys. Win a ship, but you have to lose twice to the Saints. No, but I think that you're completely right when it comes to leading up to the playoffs. It does mirror like last year, and if we end up in that number 2 seed, we're going to be playing teams like the 49ers or the Vikings or maybe even the Saints, who don't have that difficult of a schedule going in the next 3 weeks either. A lot of things need to shake out in the NFC. I mean, what do the Cardinals do? What do the Rams do? Who they both have matchups they should win this week, but it's not out of the realm. Who knows the way things have been going the last couple months here, that on any given Thursday or Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday, whenever they want to play an NFL game, anything can happen. So, but if we still have destiny in our hands, I think if we win out, we're at least going to be the 1 or 2 seed. And if there's some magic, then we'll maybe be number 1 in home. So that'd be great. But like you said, these injuries, really, we need to win, but we also need to stay healthy and bring back and integrate the people that have been injured back into the fold. I mean, I don't think we've played with a complete, I guess if you want to call it that, a complete secondary for a long time, and we've brought in guys, and then Sherman gets hurt after we bring him in. So, and he got hurt again. So we'll see when he's back. So, but obviously without Godwin, but we're waiting on, is Mike Evans going to be completely healthy? Is Antonio Brown going to return healthy? Will we get Winfield and Jamel Dean and all these guys? So that's the big question. So I guess, as long as we do what we got to do, I think we can definitely get there. And I'm not really worried about losing to the Saints twice in a year because things happen, and it's more, this doesn't seem like it's a repeatable thing. This does totally seem just like it's a bad day at the office, and the people we brought in weren't ready for it. So we'll see what growth can happen from this moment, because now there's all that film. And that's why I alluded to in the beginning of this podcast, like, I would not want to be the Kashawn Vaughns and Rojos and Tyler Johnsons and Gronkowskis even on that Tuesday film session. So,
I'll say this, gentlemen. I was a little more pessimistic with this kind of overall thoughts for me, but after what y'all said, I'm a little optimistic. Carter, you said it yourself. Even with the ugly Cardinals loss they had against the Lions, that was rather strange as well. That's part of the game. These things happen. But at least for me, it just always puts me down that when it's the Saints, I just, think to myself, yeah, sure, these things happen, but should they happen? So yeah, interesting vibe for me as well. Yurika, you said it yourself, we got to shake some things out in the NFC, see what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, obviously, listen, hey, we lost to them twice last year, and look what happened after that. We won the Super Bowl. So yeah, maybe it doesn't mean much, but at least for me, the only thing I'm really thinking was this was a huge wake up call / also we gotta do what we gotta do in regards to these injuries. So kind of seeing the development of how bad some of these injuries are, or when people are gonna be back and ready and healthy. Those are some concerns I have, I guess, in regards to this game, and kind of things to consider in regards to what's upcoming for us with these few games ahead and then the playoffs. So it's just for me, I guess this was the final test. Now, yes, as heated as I am that we lost to the Saints, I'm also just a little frustrated that this wasn't just any loss. This was a really ugly loss, and this was kind of the last little scrimmage we had right before the real fun of the actual serious business begins. So it threw me off a little bit, but I see what y'all are saying. These things happen. Should they happen? No, but hey, 2 Saints lost didn't affect us last year in the playoffs. We succeeded. We won the Super Bowl. So perhaps it'll just be like that. Maybe that's what we needed. Maybe we just needed that last little final wake up call, just a nice little thing to say, hey, I hope y'all are ready. Maybe this was just something to say, after everything you've been through, Bucs, it's not over just yet. We're still going to be throwing some injuries to you and all that. So for me, it's just seeing how can we not take advantage, but how can we, succeed to the best of our ability with what we have right now. I have a lot of high hopes. We are the Super Bowl champions. So it's not like everything, it's not like we just hit the fan and we're in absolute trouble. Now it's more saying, all right, listen, now we got to be extra careful. We got to take our time, and, we got to do the best what we can, praying for the best with the injuries. But also maybe, I guess, then again, if with these injuries here and there, then I guess maybe this allows our depth pieces, our backups, to get a little bit more action. All right, we should win these next 3 games. I really do think we will. But if I'm one of the coaches or one of the coordinators, I'm thinking, well, this is maybe a nice little opportunity for our backups to get as much as opportunities as they can. All right, it's time for us to, for me right now, honestly, gentlemen, all I'm thinking is, listen, all I want is 3 wins. I don't care if we win by 1 point these next few weeks or if we win by 30 points, for all I care. What I care now is making sure these depth pieces, everyone's on the same page and everyone's ready. Everyone, sure, yeah, okay, that's okay. You made a mistake, but did you learn from it? Now that's all I want to see is learning. This should be a learning experience. What we had this past weekend was a learning experience. Now all we need to do is just learn and observe and make the best out of it. There's only so much that I want to get fired up about. I don't want to be like, OMG, playoff Lenny, he's ready. He's going to just dominate the playoffs. We're going to be win. Oh my God, it's all sunshine and rainbows, etc., etc. Obviously, it's not like that. But a little bit more onto the bright side. For me, listen, we do this every single week, listeners, and that's our little RBLR moment. Really, for me, I had really had to think very hard. This was probably the hardest RBLR moment I had to think to myself. Something you enjoyed seeing, not good or bad, maybe something that as a fan just made you, smile or something. So, Carter, was there an RBLR moment, and if so, what was it?
Whew. Um, Man, that's a tough proposition because this was not a game filled with a lot of smile or feel good moments.
Right on.
There were a few plays on the defense that really made me kind of all right. Like that was a pretty good play right there. They got some pressure on Taysom Hill, but it was really nice to see the fans. It was one of the first times I was up in the press box before the game started. It was right before it was pregame festivities. This was one of the first times at a Saints Bucs game because I grew up going to them a lot as a kid, where I looked around and I felt like, wow, this is a Bucs crowd. Because you go to a Bucs Saints game, and I hate to say it, but most of the time it's Saints fans dominating the bleachers. And looking around, I saw a lot of red. It was a great crowd. I felt like it was a lot of hype building up into the game. Once the game got started, it wasn't really that way because the game itself was kind of a dud. But yeah, like I said, I think that was my moment of the week, was just taking a look around and realizing, hey, things are, it's the Tom Brady effect. It's the Super Bowl. The Bucs have fans. It's kind of crazy. I just looked around and I was like, wow, this is a lot better than it was before. It's a lot better than coming in feeling like it's a road game at your home stadium. So I guess that was my moment of the week.
You said exactly what I was gonna say, because
Oh,
in
my
lieu of a big interception or a game turning play, I mean, it was just the defense was just really, really good, and they played good enough to win the whole game. But yeah, even Cam Jordan mentioned that in the post game, as he was kind of incredulous. He's like, there's the most fans I've seen in this. He's like, I've been coming here for over a decade, and like, this is the most fans I've ever seen in here. So it was good that we got to like beat you guys up in front of your fans. But that belies the fact that there were a ton of fans there. So it was like, it was great. I mean, I don't live too far from Ray J myself, and you could just feel the excitement and the traffic and everything beforehand, and then sometimes when it gets loud, you can almost hear him all the way down here if I'm on my balcony. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's the silver lining, is that people showed up, and they showed up in the right colors, and unfortunately, this was the dud that they gave all those fans. And but let's Musaab, man, can we just purge past this? Can we get out of the Saints, and let's move on to the Panthers, man? Please.
I got you. Hey, I say this as well. I love the energy as well. There was a whole lot of red out there, and my little quick RBLR moment. I mean, it was a dud, but for me, when I was watching it, the only thing that still kept me on the edge of my seat, the only thing that didn't allow me to just toss my phone on the other side of the room, gentlemen, was our defense, but specifically Mr. Levante David.
Yeah, man.
I was watching that game, and I looked my friend in the eyes. I said, that's why he has that captain patch. You see that captain patch, buddy? That's why he's got it. Because my man racked up 11 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and even racked up a sack. It's people like him. When you see your captain, the leader, your big brother perform, he's showing out. That fires you up. And I think because of that, I think the rest of our defense was fired up. They did the best they could, and I was happy with that. But overall, obviously, I don't think any of us are happy with the overall result of the overall game. And Yurika, I'm going to do you a favor, and let's get out of here. Let's run away from this little Saints haunted house.
Yeah.
All right, let's escape. And let's move on to the fun stuff. But let's just dig deep in right here. But before we go into Panthers preview, did you want to say anything in regards to liking and subscribing, but also with our our threads? What's going on with our threads, Yurika?
Yeah, man, like you said, liking and subscribing to this podcast is absolutely free, and it really, really, really helps us grow. But sometimes we all need a little wardrobe upgrade here. So if you need some new stuff, you can support us with a little bit of money by going over to shop.rblrsports.com and check out all the designs that we've cooked up. We've got shirts in the colors of the Bucs and the Rays and the Rowdies and the Lightning and all designs honoring all of our favorite teams. So for this, we'll give you, you're scratching our back, we'll scratch yours. If you use the promo code CANNONS, 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 we're going to give you 10% off your order. So there's a link right in the description. We're also going to link Carter's recent article in Creative Loafing. That's also in the description. But right next to it is a link, and you'll get 10% off if you use the promo code CANNONS. So that's all I wanted to say, man. You know, the shirts are great, man. We had a couple guys that follow the Rowdies pick up some of our things, and they've been tweeting us, and they're looking chef's kiss magnifique.
I love it. I'm excited. Listeners, you heard it from the man himself. We got some good looking threads. Scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. But speaking of, let's move on to our next thing. The Panthers are up. All right, this is it. We're going to be playing them twice, which is rather interesting from our schedule. But round one of the little Panthers Bucs matchup, and also round one for, I don't know how many rounds we're going to have with them, but round one with Mr. Le'Veon Bell. So, gentlemen, I want to hear your first thoughts with, what are your overall thoughts about this game? What are we looking at? Because I said it like maybe 5 trillion times already. The Saints game for me was the final little test that we had. I got nothing against the Panthers, but ideally I don't think this is going to be a threat. But then again, with the injuries we have, with everything we've been going through, it's not that I'm completely thinking this is all sunshine and rainbows. So I guess I want to know if we got to play them tomorrow, or listen, we're playing them very soon. So this is it. So I just want to know, right before the game, what are you thinking? If your friends are asking you, hey Carter, hey Yurika, with everything your team's been through, this is not going to be a kind of just a walk in the park. This could be a very interesting game. I really do think that's what I'm gonna say. I really do think this could be a really interesting game because it's been an interesting season for us, is what I really want to say. So, Carter, with the debut of Le'Veon Bell, with everything that's we've been dealing with, what are the overall thoughts? How are we feeling? What are you really looking at in regards to this upcoming Panthers game?
With the whole, I'll address the Le'Veon Bell thing first because I think it's just he's had one of the most interesting careers of anyone I can think of, because he starts out, I mean, he's like an Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry crossover, if you wanted to think in terms of modern running backs right now this year, because he was a power back. He could run in between the tackles, and then you could put him out wide, and he would run some of the crispest routes you would see out of any running back in football. And it was just a ridiculous combination with him, Antonio Brown, and Ben Roethlisberger in his prime, running that offense. It was a ridiculous offense. And that fall from grace after he, took the season off because he was holding out, and then he signed a contract with the Jets, had the hamstring injury. He had kind of an off season. He gets cut because he had that weird trade request thing, and he signed with the Chiefs, and he's had a tumultuous past couple of years. So to see him in a Bucs uniform is kind of just my first thought was, wow, it took us this long to get here, because it felt for me kind of I don't want to say inevitable, but it felt like a match that was just eventually going to happen, just because that just seems like that's what this Bucs team does, is just take guys that Tom Brady would play really well with. And Le'Veon Bell seems like on paper a guy that Tom Brady would play really, really well with. And the good news is, a lot of people look at this past season for Le'Veon Bell and they think, man, where's he been? What has he been doing? He's been on the Ravens practice squad. He's been bouncing back and forth there. I think of it as the best possible news that really the Bucs could have gotten, because now Le'Veon Bell's fresh. He went through those seasons with the Steelers where in 2017 he had close to, he had over 300 carries. He led the NFL in carries, and he had 83 catches. He had 83 receptions. That is so much mileage to put on someone's legs. Yeah. Especially in, the NFL, for God's sakes. I mean, he was cooked, it just felt like he was putting it all on the field. So I don't blame him for, sitting out that year wanting to get paid. But, as far as the Bucs goes, I think it's just the best case scenario, because I think he'll be fresh. I think he'll bring an energy to the locker room. I read the headline. I was like, wow, this could be pretty good. I mean, all things considered, they could have gone out and signed some nobody. They could have just said, oh, we're going to stick with Vaughn and Jones, and I would have been like, well, then we got to watch who's going to be the third down back, who's going to be the guy catching passes out of the backfield, because neither of those guys are it. And so yeah, I'm really excited to see him play. I don't know how much of a contribution he's going to make this week, just because it's his first week of practice with the Bucs. I don't know how much incorporated into the game plan he's going to be. I hope he is, but you never know with these things. But against the Panthers, I mean, look, the Panthers are in rough shape. It's the old saying, if you have two quarterbacks and you really don't have any, and they have Sam Darnold and Cam Newton, neither of whom have really shown that they are starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL at this point in their careers. And I think McCaffrey's done. He's not playing. It seems like it's the 50th year we've had to say that McCaffrey's not playing, but he's done. So their offense, I just think it's a tough proposition for them to beat the Bucs this week, because I think the Bucs are going to get after it. I think the defense is hot. I think they're coming, as much as the loss was disappointing, I think that they're reinvigorated by their performance. They played really well against the Saints, and I think they're going to be going in this Panthers game really excited. DJ Moore, their top wideout, is questionable. So, I mean, it's a lot of stuff up in the air. They're really good defensively, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I think Sam Darnold and Cam Newton could commit some silly turnovers. Because I think Sean Payton is I think one thing that we didn't give enough credit to was that, Sean Payton wasn't there, but he was involved in Zoom meetings, obviously. So I think he created a great game plan for Taysom Hill he didn't commit any turnovers, and I don't think that the Panthers are going to have a great game plan in place to kind of prevent some silly errors from either Sam Darnold or Cam Newton, whoever's out there. So sorry, that was a long time of me talking, but
no, you're good. You're good.
That was definitely. Yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to be really hard pressed to see the Bucs lose this weekend. I think they win. It's kind of a, I don't know, no brainer for me.
Yeah, I was a guest on the Across the Pond Sports Network just earlier today. That episode I hope is coming out either today or tomorrow. But on there that we had asked, and I said, it seems like every time the Bucs have these like forged in the fire of defeat moments, the Panthers just sort of show up on the schedule the next week, and we get to like get right against the Carolina Panthers. So here we are again. It happened to us last year in the beginning of the year, and here we are now. So I agree. I mean, it couldn't come at a better time when you have an opponent that doesn't have their number one weapon offensively. And then they had to bring back Cam Newton off the scrap heap, but even he was limping after the first quarter. And now Sam Darnold's coming back off of the injury report, and the coach is saying he's going to play as well. And it's just like, oh, okay, we'll see. But what they do have isn't like world-beating stuff. I mean, they use Hubbard up the middle. He's quick, but he's not very strong. They also throw a lot of running back screen routes to Hubbard. They tried so many different formations last week against the Buffalo Bills. They had jumbo type sets for running. They had stacked receivers as a decoy for Cam Newton draw plays that went nowhere. They went a lot of empty backfield and had 5 wides and trying to throw screen routes to Robbie Anderson like on 4th and 1. It was just like, okay. I mean, if this is what they're going to throw at the Bucs, man, I don't know, because this defense is locked and loaded, and I would not want to be them. But I also, if I'm looking at the other side of the ball here too, like their defense, I wouldn't want to be the team that has to play a focused and course-correcting Tom Brady now, because they play a little bit of man, they play a little bit of zone. They don't really overcommit to either one of those, but a ton of big holes in their zone for those crossing routes and middle routes and that the Bucs like to take to play. And also they stunt their linebackers a lot, and that could be used as a weak point against the running back screen, which the Bucs obviously like to emphasize. So I think that if they play zone, there's holes, and if they play man, guys like Henderson can be burned deep, and were burned, or at least had the potential to get burned last week against Buffalo. So I'm just sitting here going like, I think these guys fit right into what the Buccaneers want to do and are built to do, and now it's just about execution. This is not going to be another team that's going to shut out the Buccaneers. If we just play to our average ability, and I think even with guys being out, but we're also getting a few guys back. I mean, we're seeing Antonio Brown. How is he going to be integrated again? How will some of these guys like Le'Veon Bell? Maybe he's got a couple plays they can draw up in the meantime this week. But if you're just playing backyard football and you're saying, all right, we're going to do a toss sweep, or hey, we're going to run it to the A gap, we're running to the B gap, here we go, like it's going to be, the offensive line I think is going to have to do a little bit better for the run game, because the Panthers, they can be run all over. They give up a lot of yards on the ground, and if we just get an average performance out of our passing game, it could get very, very ugly. But Musaab, what do you think?
I mean, I'll put it into three things. The first with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, you said it yourself, yeah, Carter. I mean, only so much I can say as well. Always wishing for the best. At least for me, I mean, physicality wise, I don't know how he really is, but what I can say is with the knowledge and experience he has under his belt, I'm hoping that, people like him, and, I said this about Antonio Brown and Richard Sherman, is, you can tell the other guys, the young guys, how to do these things, okay? Sure, you're not, sure, Le'Veon Bell may not be faster than, some other guy, but he can still guide him, vision. And this is just going to come down to chemistry, and what I think is a little interesting, which is kind of which I'm going to be kind of nitpicking a little bit more during round 2 when we play them is, okay, well, Le'Veon Bell played against the Panthers. Okay, whatever. He had his ups and downs. Oh, that's okay. Let's see what he learned, and then let's see what he does the next time we play them. So that's all I really have to say in regards to Le'Veon Bell. Now, in regards to this upcoming Panthers game, I'm right there with y'all. The only reason we're going to lose is if we start kind of slacking. We start playing like we did this past weekend. The defense did phenomenal, beautiful performance against the Saints. And now I'm thinking, if I'm the defense and, you do a great job, you work your butt off, try to really help your brothers out there on the offensive side, but, unfortunately they don't help you out a little bit. So because of that, I'm thinking, well, the defense is already like fired up. They've been fired up since that loss. They've been fired up since the first quarter against the Saints. So I know they're going to be extremely fired up, and we're coming at them. I'm not worried about the Saints. Oh, no, what am I thinking? Saints. Oh,
hey, I ain't worried about them
Saints.
either.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. I got a problem, gentlemen. I need to get the Saints out of my head. Anyways, but on the real, though, with the Panthers, yeah, I don't have any worries on the offense, yeah, no McCaffrey, so that makes me feel a lot better. That makes, I think, the whole world feel better if you're a Buccaneers fan. But yeah, on the defensive side, yeah, for them, they could take advantage of it. It just depends on what our O-line does. Now, yeah, for me, all I need is an average O-line, or just average offensive performance, I guess, really. And then the defense, I know, will be there. I'm not worried about the defense, so I have no concerns. My only issue is that it just scares me to see that the defense played so well, gentlemen, this past weekend. And just because of a few slips here and there, because of some doings, obviously they racked up some field goals, as teams naturally do. They're a solid team. But the offense of ours just was absolutely disappointing.
Sure.
So I hope it doesn't happen like that again. Obviously, most likely not. I mean, it would be a shame if they performed like they did this past weekend. So that's why, yeah, I'm feeling really optimistic. I don't think it's going to be completely sunshine and rainbows. We're going to have to be playing a little careful, but I do think that, we know how we need to win, and we know, how we can dominate. All I want from these 3 games, as much as I want to win, even if it's just 1 point, ideally, I really do think that this is important. That, we are getting some guys back. So for that reason, I really want to just run over these next 3, our opponents, these next 3 games. I really do. I want the whole league to know that, okay, sure, we had this little bad game against the Saints, but we are still the defending champs. We're looking hot. And yes, we have some issues here and there, specifically injuries, but we're going to make the best out of it. And we're not giving the Panthers or the Jets a chance to even, come near us or allow a dogfight to really happen. So that's really how I feel. As we get closer to the game, I guess maybe I'll become a little more optimistic. But there's just this side of me that thinks, it's really anything can happen. That's part of football. So always trying to praying for the best, really. And I'm not super worried, but I do have some concerns that I'm expecting to not be there when we play against the Panthers, specifically being the offense, really. I want everyone to show out, to the best of their ability, and I really hope. I think it'll turn out to be like that. Um, we'll just have to see. I mean, there's only so much I really want to say after a loss. I'm extremely fired up, gentlemen, but I also just, what the injuries that have been happening, and we're also, we got a new guy like Le'Veon Bell. There's a lot of transitions, a lot of moves we're still making. Things aren't solidified for me, so that's why I don't have this kind of solidified thought that OMG, we're gonna run them over. Yes, we're gonna win. I really do think, yeah, we're gonna rack up the win, but
Okay.
at what cost and by how many points is, I guess, maybe what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But yeah, that's really about it though for me on the Panthers side, and I guess we'll kind of dig deep a little bit more now. Yes, it should be a good performance by ours. We're getting some guys back, but we're dealing with some injuries, the ones that are a little discouraging, the ones that kind of put me down these last few days. For example, we'll start out with Chris Godwin's out, okay, which is really big. Mike Evans right now questionable. He was not participating as of Wednesday. Playoff Lenny, regular season Lenny, whatever name you have for him, all right. And then we got Levante David who's out, which is extremely concerning because he is the leader of the pack, and he's one half of the dynamic little D White Levante David duo. So and then yeah, Antonio Brown, who is questionable as of right now. Antoine Winfield, little question mark for him as well. He's questionable. Bruce Arians was non-committal with that. Jamel Dean has returned to practice this week, though. All right. So, hey, on the bright side, hey, Dean looks like he's back. And then Richard Sherman right now, questionable. So, a lot of questionables out there. And, a few people who are not participating. And then there's just a few people who are, unfortunately, they're going to be out, and that's for sure. So, what do we think of this, gentleman? Carter, how do we think about all this?
Oh man, the injuries are really that's the like I said, that's kind of the biggest takeaway from this past weekend's game was just losing Godwin for the season is that's a tough one because obviously he's the leading pass catcher on the team. He has 1,000 yards already even before the injury, but he's also I feel like he provides a lot of stability and a lot of things that you can't really put on a stat sheet. He's a great blocking receiver, probably one of the best in the NFL. And it's tough to see him go down. And the hamstring thing with Fournette is really scary because you never really know with hamstring injuries. It feels like they could be out 2 weeks, he could be out 4 weeks, he could be out the rest of the season. It's just it's kind of like one of those things. And yeah, the David thing too. The David thing is definitely tough because, like you said, he's a really big emotional leader in the locker room, and he's the coffee that makes the defense run, if you want to say that. He's the guy. He's their captain, and you just look for guys like Devin White, Vita Vea, Carlton Davis. You look for those guys to step up and say, hey, we're gonna get through this. This is all right. Like, obviously David's gone for a while, but we're gonna be fine. And I'm not really too worried about the defense. The offensive injuries are definitely far more concerning, but we'll see. I don't think this problem rears its ugly head quite as much as we think until we get to the playoffs. I think once the Bucs get to the playoffs, and if they're still without Fournette and Evans, then that's going to be a tough proposition. That is going to be an incredibly difficult uphill battle against whoever they play, because playoff football, it's a whole different animal, and you're playing against really good teams who deserve to be there. The Bucs are obviously a team that deserves to be there, but so is the team whoever they're going to play. So Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough.
Yeah, like Carter said, it's really just, can we get healthy and can we be playing the right level of football as we get into the tournament? So we're hoping. Godwin, of course, is out, but we're just hoping that the Deans and the Shermans and the Winfields and the ABs and all that can be assets to this team.
Right there with y'all, gentlemen. I mean, there's only so much. And, listen, this has been happening over and over, throughout the season. So this is something that's going to be raising my eyebrows right now. And obviously the list is a little longer than last week for sure. But I'm right there with you, Carter. The defensive ones we've been dealing with, I'm just so used to it now that I'm just, we just got to hope for the best. And, just make sure that our backups try to learn and take advantage of these opportunities that they have. But on the offensive side, I'm a little concerned now. All right. Because yeah, if we got Evans and Fournette still questionable, and now we're headed to the playoffs, I'll be scratching my head for sure. Slash, I'll just be thinking of a lot of things and having a lot of worries, like, oh my God, well, who's gonna step up? So listen, we got a few interesting games ahead of us. Nothing too challenging. Ideally, that's what I think is nothing too challenging. So. It's not that I want to say, hey, boys, let's have some fun out there, but it's more for me, I'm thinking, hey, let's just see what we can do. All right? Because, listen, we should obviously win. That's a no-brainer. You said it yourself, Carter. That's a no-brainer. We should win. So if I'm in the locker room, I'm telling these guys, listen, it's a no-brainer. We should win. We will win. We have to win. But most importantly, how can we take advantage of these 3 games to the best of our ability? And I mean that because these aren't really true tests, but we should try to nitpick as much as we can. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is, gentlemen, is sure we're gonna win, and sure they're not any threats to us, but we should still kind of be playing a little hardball with them, making sure, hey, listen, uh, the fact that this happened against some team that dominated us defensively, and it's still happening against teams like the Panthers and the Jets. Why? So that's what all I'm going to be thinking about is, when these things pop up, when, these upcoming games that we have, I'm going to be very happy and optimistic. I'll be feeling good. I'll be repping my jersey, D White from Gronk. But I'm also going to be thinking, hey, it's time to really get serious now. We need to buckle down. This wake up call, I think, was not just a wake up call for just the team, but to the fans as well. I think the fans, personally, I think the fans, as supportive as they are, also need to make sure that they hold everyone accountable and root for them. And I think the fans are kind of feeling the way I am as right now, is just saying, all right, well, yeah, sure, we should win, we should do this, we should that, this should happen, that should happen, but well, will it really happen? Hopefully it will, but let's see how often it happens. How often can we dominate them? How often can we have real good runs from people like Rojo or Vaughn? Or how often can we get some real nice catches from the depth pieces?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's all I'm really thinking about.
it's deja vu, like Carter was saying. I mean, it really does feel like coming off that bye week of last year, right? Where we're kind of saying a lot of these same things, like, who are the Bucs? Are we amazing, or are we 9-0 getting shut out? Like, who are we right now? And this will be a good month or a good 3 weeks to kind of get our identity back, get some good feeling in the win column, and also some momentum as we get some guys back and try to make a run in the tournament. Musaab, let's you want to move on to Mr. Fantasy? Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, do it. Let's do it. So my Mr. Fantasy for this upcoming game against the Panthers.
Okay.
I'm just thinking it's got to be Tom Brady.
Ooh,
He's got a chip on his shoulder. I
I
think he's
like
going to
that.
ball out. He's going to take advantage of this. The old line is, they're on their tippy toes now. I'm sure everyone's real frustrated. Just, I mean, listen, I mean, things are going to happen or whatever. But for me, what I'm thinking is to the offensive line, to Tom Brady, to, the rest of our offense. Um, I hope you learned from your little wake up call game, and I'm sure Tom Brady learned. I'm sure there's a lot of feelings in Tom Brady's mind right now, and Tom Brady. Listen, he is scary. If I'm a Panthers fan, I'm actually kind of scared
Yeah,
because you have ignited this fire now. All right,
we're hoping. Yeah.
Tom Brady, yeah, exactly. Tom Brady, he's frustrated. Everyone's frustrated now. Everyone's coming at him because he is the GOAT. All right. So for that reason, he's got a lot. A lot of people have all eyes on him, thinking, "Hey, listen, sure, it's the Panthers, and yes, you're gonna win, Tom Brady, but we want to see." See, what I'm really trying to say is, I want Tom Brady to ball out because if I'm a Cardinals fan or a Packers fan or a Rams fan, after a game like the Saints we had, all I'm gonna do is just text my buddy who's a Bucs fan saying LOL, and I'm not gonna have any regard. I'm not gonna have any regard for the Bucs until playoff time,
Yeah.
unless I mean we absolutely just dominate them. I'm talking Tom Brady embarrasses them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want these next three games to be like we had against the Chicago Bears. Where everyone is just happy and jolly. Those kind of games where it's embarrassing for the opponent. Unless we don't embarrass them, I don't think people are going to have any regard for us until the playoff time. Which I know, listen, it don't matter. It's still the regular season, so who cares what others think of us? But it's just for me. I'm thinking, well, I want everyone to be thinking of us. We're the defending champs. I want to have a little real estate in all of our opponents' minds. So my Mr. Fantasies, the one and only, the GOAT, Tom Brady. I think he's gonna ball out, and I think he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. But Carter, who is your Mr. Fantasy?
All right. So now I do have a question. Are we allowed to pick the defense slash special teams as
Hell
the
yeah. Hell yeah,
Oh,
we can.
well, there you go. That's my pick. I have a lot of faith, especially with the way this defense played, and you're getting Dean back. You got your secondary. Winfield might be coming back. I think for whoever the Panthers, they're doing this weird college football style. Oh well, we're gonna play Cam and Sam Darnold. Like that doesn't work. Come on now. Like that only works if you're playing, with at UF with Tim Tebow and Chris Leak. That doesn't work with Sam Darnold and Cam Newton. But regardless, I just think they're going to have a huge game. I don't think that because they've shown that they're able to defend the run like nobody else in the league, and I think that's going to hold true. And I think that Shaq and JPP and JTS they're going to have some fun because as bad as the Panthers QB situation is, their offensive line is, I don't want to say worse, but definitely not great either. So yeah, I just think that they have an absolutely monster game. I would, if you got the Bucs on your fantasy team, get ready because that, especially because it's playoff time. We all know it's playoff time for fantasy football.
Yep.
I'm really excited to see them kind of just go off. They might have a 15 or 20 point game, honestly.
Man, I'm going to pick the running back room. I mean, I want to say they're going to give the rock to one particular guy. Maybe Ronald Jones, maybe. If they do, he's going to have a great game because if you look at this, the Panthers give up on average this entire year over 115 yards on the ground on average. If we look at Miami, their top two guys almost had 100. It went for 111. If we look at the Falcons, who beat them in a close game, but the Carolina still gave up 128 yards on the ground. If you look at Buffalo last week, Singletary was able to go for 86 yards by himself. So this is prime real estate. If the Buccaneers are able to add running into their offense and not just throw the ball every down, this is going to be a big opportunity for whoever in the. It could be three guys that are splitting carries. It could be Le'Veon Bell maybe getting 5 carries in this game. It could be Rojo getting 22 carries and going off for 100 yards. But however they want to split it, I think that this is an ample opportunity to reestablish the running game in this offense and get a little bit of good film, good tape out here about our running backs and offensive line moving the chains on the ground and not just Tom Brady dinking and dunking and maybe hopefully we get a 30-yard bomb or something like that. So that's what I'm excited and that's what I think is my Mr. Fantasy is the running back room.
I like it. I like how we all have different ones.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to see, and maybe, just maybe, we all. I wouldn't be surprised if we all get all of our Mr. Fantasies correct, because this could be a really fun show for us. What you think, gentlemen? Huh?
It could be if it's 100-0. I think we're all right. I think all of us with the defense obviously pitch a shutout, and then we threw for 5 touchdowns and ran it for 5 touchdowns, and then a bunch of field goals to add the other 30 points. So I love it. I think that's a recipe for success, gents.
Yeah, I'm surprised none of us said. I was really tempted to go Ryan Suckup because I've been. I mean,
He
the
needs a
Bucs
bounce back
kickers.
game. Ugh.
Yeah, the Bucs kicking woes have been very apparent. Like the past 5 years feels like they've had 10 different kickers. So the Bucs finally signed Ryan Suckup. I was like, oh heck yeah! Like he had a great year last year, and he's he's my dude. So I almost went with him for my Mr. Fantasy, but yeah. I think it'll be a fun show. I have Gronk in one of my fantasy leagues, so I'm hoping that he doesn't have a stinker again because my goodness, he really let me down this past week. Especially since the dude I was playing had Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp, so that was tough.
Yeah, I have Tom Brady as my quarterback, and I was like 8 points, 8 points.
Yeah,
dude? At least he didn't throw an interception. So I'm like 8 points. Oh man. Well, I guess there's only one more thing to do, Musaab.
And that is our game prediction. It should be a fun show, gentlemen, but I want to know how fun are we thinking? For me, I'm thinking 24-3. All right, I think this is going to be a dominant performance by our defense and our offense. Now, as much as I want a 100-0 kind of win, I think we'll still have fun with it, and I think we'll be able to rack up some yards. I think 24 should be solid. There's some things we still got to work with, especially these questionable injuries with Evans and Fournette, and what we're working with, and we're kind of coming from a rather weird loss. So I don't think it's all gonna be all sunshine and rainbows on the offensive side. I think it's gonna be sunshine and rainbows more on the defensive side, if anything. But for me, that's why I want to say 24-3. It's going to be a nice, solid win. It should be fun. I think we're all going to have a good time.
Carter, we'll have you give yours, then I'll give mine.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm thinking 23-9. I think the Panthers, maybe they drive down the field a couple times. Maybe a sloppy Bucs turnover gives them a free field goal. But I really, you look at the Panthers and like, who do they go to in the red zone? I mean, you can't. I mean, I guess you go to Cam running the ball, but the Bucs have shown this past week that they have no problem, shutting down a running quarterback that's not, Josh Allen. So it's I think 23-9. I think the Bucs score a few touchdowns. They get some field goals. I think it's just a nice, let's get back more to the average, more to the mean. I think it'll be a good performance.
I'm taking the over. 44 is the over-under. I'm taking the over. I think this is going to absolutely be a get-right game for them, and it will be 31-13, taking the over in a huge game that gets those Bucs back on their 30-point streak that was broken last week. But and I think maybe that gives Cam. One touchdown and a couple field goals. So they get 3 scoring drives out of it, but what are you going to do? Well, I say, I want to say thank you to Carter for joining us. Man, it's been fun reading your stuff in Creative Loafing, and it's been an even bigger pleasure to have you here, man. I'll say this to you off air in depth, but dude, you have an open invite. Anytime you want to come on the show, man, you just let me know, man, and we will get this going because this was phenomenal. But I also want to thank the listeners. I want to thank you listening to this podcast right now. Thank you. You're taking time out of your day, whether it's on your commute or at your lunch break or however you're doing this. If there's one thing you could do for us, hit that little like button, hit that little subscribe button, hit that little follow button. It helps us out immensely. If you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you know the drill. Follow us. We are at RBLR Sports. Just click that little button. It takes a second for you, but it means a whole lot for us. So wherever you're at, whether it's Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening to us, click a little button. Helps us out a lot, guys. So without further ado, though, I have to, Carter, give you the floor, and then Musaab, take us home, my guy.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been, it's been a blast. I'm definitely looking forward to coming back sometime soon.
Let's go.
On the show. Yeah, it's been really fun. It's definitely a a great way to spend your Wednesday night. You know, Wednesday night's kind of Tuesday and Wednesday are usually, obviously yesterday was kind of an oddball, but usually those are the 2 dead days for football. So it's been great to, you know, keep the good vibes going for sure, despite the fact that it wasn't necessarily a great outcome for this past weekend. So I appreciate you guys.
Is there anything you want to plug before you get out of here, Carter?
Oh, no. I mean, just Creative Loafing. You know, they do some great work. They've been an incredibly welcoming environment for me as an aspiring freelance sports writer. So they've been great. So definitely check them out. Definitely, you know, support local journalists. It's definitely a very important thing to do, is to support local journalism, especially now, you know. So just yeah.
Well, like always, Yurika, appreciate you, and appreciate you, Carter, for coming out and helping us and joining us and talking about some Tampa Bay football. Well, ladies and gents, I'm going to call this weekend's theme, I'm going to call this, we are going to Ram, Cam, and Sam. All right. That's what our Bucs have in store for all of us. All right. So let me tell you this. All right. Just shrug it off. The past is the past. The future is the future. All right. But let's focus on the present. Let's focus on the now. All right. Because that's why it is called the present. It's a gift. All right. So let's take advantage of this gift we have against the Panthers, where it's going to be a nice feast. I hope you all got a little snacks, the pizza, the popcorn ready. I mean, I had it last week. I had some leftovers because obviously I was so focused on the game. But hey, I'm going to tell you this. By the time you wake up Sunday afternoon, you come home from church or whatever you do Sunday morning, it's going to be time. That phone better be fully charged to record all the Snapchats you have with your buddies. But most importantly, listeners, that energy that you had from week 1 to week 14, all right, I hope it's still there. All right, we're going to need all the energy. I know our Buccaneers are going to be bringing in some heat, so I need y'all to be bringing in some heat as well. All right, 1 p.m., the show will begin. It's going to be a beautiful day, all right, and that's all I got to say. So, as always, thanks again, listeners, and go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.